Hi, welcome back to my channel. So I know everybody is doing their mid-year wrap-ups. I wanted to fully wait till the end of June before I did my mid-year wrap-up because I want to make sure I finish out my 6 months so I can get a really thorough mid-year wrap-up going for my channel. So I thought a good idea would be to kind of go through my tentative plan TBR for the rest of this year. So for the next 6 months, I have about 3 categories here of books that I would like to finish. I have 27 total books, and I average about 8 books a month. So if I do 8 books a month, that's almost 50 books this year. And if half of those are this TBR, and then half of them are like books that I pick up or new releases or books that I just see online that I want to read, then I think that'll be a good kind of pacing and split for the rest of this year for my reading. So, of course, I'm continuing my Throne of Glass journey. I have the last 3 books. Hold on. I have the last 3 books that I have to read for the rest of this year. I was pacing about 1 book a month. I haven't got to my Throne of Glass book for June yet, and it is already more than halfway. And I know I'm going to be traveling, so I don't think I'm probably going to get to Throne of Glass this month. So it'll probably push me back until September to finish the entire series. And these books are chunky, so I need to do that. And then the other 3 categories that I have for the rest of the year is one category is part of this TBR list that I made in my reading journal at the end of last year. And it was 14 books that I really wanted to prioritize. And these were books that I felt like I needed to read for my own reading, or books that were popular, or whatever reason I had. So I had 14 books there. I've read 6 of those, so that means I have 8 left. And then my other stack I have here is new releases or new books that I have bought this year that I really want to get to. And then my last stack is what I'm going to call shelvers. These are books that have been on my shelves for probably at least a year, probably more. And they're mostly literary fiction. That's mostly what I lean to. My channel this year has been a lot of fantasy and science fiction because those have tended to be the books that I've seen a lot online that I've kind of wanted to read and find out what the hype was. But my taste usually leans toward literary fiction. So a lot of those shelver books are literary fiction, and it is a little stock that I really need to eat away at on my physical TBR. So let's go through the 3 categories and the 3 stacks, and hopefully by the end of this year, I can rewatch this video and see how successful I was. Hopefully I was successful and I didn't blow this whole thing off, which I don't think is the case because there's a ton of books on here that I really want to get to. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so this is the stack of books that were part of the list of the TBR list that I made in my reading journal the end of last year. There are 8 books here. The first one is Wolf Hall. It's a historical fiction. It won the Man Booker Prize, and it's written by Hilary Mantel. I believe this is part of a trilogy series, and I really enjoy historical fiction. I don't really think I've read, I think this is 1500s England. I think it's Anne Boleyn involved. I don't think I've really read much of that era, so I really want to get to this one this year. Next is a classic, and it is Persuasion by Jane Austen. I've only read Pride and Prejudice, and I read Pride and Prejudice probably when I was in high school. Really loved it. Never read any more of her books, even though I know I'll like them, and I've had this one for quite a minute, so definitely want to get to Persuasion. The next book is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. This book I started reading, and I think I got, 76 pages in, and then it was kind of slow, and I put it down. I feel like I need to just push through. And I know if I like this book, that it's a whole series. And if I don't like it, then that's fine. It's just this one book. But it's one of those books that, you just think you'll really like if you can get to the end. And I love books about relationships and girlhood, sisterhood, friendship. And that seems to be the biggest theme in these books. So really want to get to this one. And then just, if I don't like it, then I can move on. But there's something about it that's really drawing me to it that I feel like I need to push through and read it. Next is Midnight Library. This is so random. This book was really popular online probably in 2020, I want to say, and I never got around to it. I feel like this one's a weird one because this is one of those books where a lot of people loved it at the time, But now when people look back, it's not as favorable or as positive. And maybe it's just one of those books that if you pick up early on in your journey, it's really good, but if you read more, maybe it's not so much. So I don't have really high hopes for this one. I have read Matt Haig before, and I do want to really read his new release this year. So I feel like I just need to read this one and then just be done with it and know what it's about and move on with my life. Next is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I've read Goldfinch, which I did not like, and then I read Demon Copperhead, which I did like. So this is probably, I want to say, her most famous, and it is a modern classic. So I definitely want to get to this. I know this is kind of like the beginning of dark academia, or like the prime example of it. And I think I'm going to save this for like fall, winter time, but I just need to read it and I just need to know. And I know it's kind of hit or miss too. So we'll see. And then next I have Longbourne. This was gifted to me by my hubby. It's actually been on my online TBR for a really long time, and then my husband saw it and got it for me for Christmas. It is from the perspective of the servants in Pride and Prejudice. So it's the servants of the Bennet sisters, and I really like Regency stuff. I like Regency movies, shows, books. So I think I'm going to really like this one and like the different take on Pride and Prejudice. And then lastly, I have Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I know this is a really, 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 really popular book and series online, and it's being adapted for, I think, a streaming service. And I started reading this and probably got 50 pages in, and I just did not get it. I didn't really love the writing, but somebody was like, you just got to keep pushing through. And I know there must be a reason why everyone loves this book. So I really need to push through and at least read this book and see what it's all about. I think I would like it if I did. So Red Rising has to be read this year. So that's my little list of TBR that I made for myself at the end of last year. And the next category that I'm going to go through are my new releases. So these are books that I've either picked up this year or are new releases this year. The first one is Crooked Kingdom. I read Six of Crows this year, really enjoyed it, and I know that Crooked Kingdom is also just as beloved. I'm really excited. Oh, got my little tabs in there. I'm really excited to get to this one. I kind of appreciate that it's just a duology, that it's not a super long series, and I'll be able to finish this duology and this story. So yeah, looking forward to Crooked Kingdom. I think this will be read sooner than later. Next is Betty. I know this is really beloved by a lot of girlies that love lit fic, and it sounds like it's kind of in the vein, like the kind of the same vibe of Shiner and Mercury by Amy Jo Burns that I really loved this year. So I'm thinking I'll really like Betty as well. So I don't know too much about this one, but I kind of want to go in not knowing a lot. Next, I have Jade City by Jane Fonda by Fonda Lee. You know, Jane Fonda, HBIC, but I meant Fonda Lee. And I know this is a really popular book series. I have the first one here. I kind of want to see if I like it. Like I said, I know it's a favorite of a lot of people. So looking forward to this one. And the next book is One Day by David Nichols. This book has been on my mind for many years, since the movie, and then I saw the Netflix series this year, and it really pushed me over the edge to finally read the book. I've read little bits here and there, but I really need to read it front to back and just get this off my TBR. Then I have The Will of the Many. I predict this is probably going to be that book that is going to be the most seen on everybody's end of the year wrap-ups as a favorite. It was on a ton of people's favorite of last year, and I just need to know what all the hype is about. I've heard this is really unique and really different, and I'm really excited to get to it. And I'm also kind of excited that this is the only book out yet on the series, so I'm not too far behind everybody, and I have to read this before the end of the year. I have to. And then when the second book comes out, I can be ready for that release and be ready to go. So, The Will of the Many. And then I have Stephen King's new short collection, or short story collection, You Like It Darker. It's a bunch of it's a bunch of horror short stories, and I am planning on reading this around Halloween, I think. So I think this will be a really fun pickup. And then I have Ink Blood Sister Scribe. This is a Good Morning America book club pick, which I tend to like their book club picks. And the premise sounded really interesting to me. I don't know, or at least I don't remember too much, but I remember reading about it and I was like, ooh, that sounds really good. And I think they're sisters. I like books about sisters, and it's fantasy, so looking forward to getting to this one. And then lastly on this list is Faebound. Faebound is one of those books that was on my most highly anticipated for this year. And, you know, it's like one of those books that you're really excited to get. You pre-order it, you get it in the mail, and then you don't read it. And it just sits there. This was one of those books, and I need to remedy that. I know some people really enjoyed it, and some people really did not. So I'm interested to see where I fall in that. So Faebound is the last book of that category. And so again, those are like new releases, newer books that I want to get to this year. And then this last category is my shelvers. These are books that I've had for quite some time that I really want to get to. The first book is Rachel Cusk's Outline. I know this is the first book of a 3-book series that she has. And from what I've heard, she's really interesting writing, and it's one of those ones that really hits for some people and doesn't for others. So I'm really interested to read her. I haven't read anything from her, and this will be my first one. Next, I have Gilead. I think that's how you pronounce it, Gilead, by Marilynne Robinson. This book had a moment for a minute. I think it was a big Oprah book club pick. And I don't know a ton about it, but I know it kind of has to do with spirituality, the meaning of life, you know, how to appreciate your life, I think. And I read the first page and it was really kind of gripped me and made me want to read it. So that is Gilead. Next, I have The White Album by Joan Didion. This is a short story collection. I read The Year of Magical Thinking from her, I think last year, really enjoyed it. And so I want to continue reading more from her. Then I have Brave New World. This is kind of one of those classics where I feel like it is still relevant to today, and it's not super long. It is about a utopian future where humans are genetically bred and pharmaceutically synthesized to passively serve a ruling order. So it's one of those books that I think is kind of eerily relevant to modern times as well as the time that it came out. And it's not too long, and I want to read more classics. So that is definitely on the list. Then I have The Men We Reaped by Jesmyn Ward. I haven't read any Jesmyn Ward, and I know she is an amazing author and has a lot of great books out right now. And this is a memoir. I love a memoir. I love when they can kind of hit you in that emotional spot. So really excited to get to this one. Okay, and then the next book is Ann Patchett's State of Wonder. I really enjoy Ann Patchett's writing. I have quite a few on my shelves that I haven't read from her, and so I need to work away at that list or that little stack. So this one I think is going to be my next Ann Patchett. Then the next book is going to be The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I haven't read any from this author, and I don't tend to love straight romance books. I kind of have to have something else going on, and I know this has some magical realism, and a lot of people really enjoy this. So I kind of want to see what it's about. I usually breeze through romances pretty quickly, so should be an easy one to get to. And then lastly on this list is Chloe Gong's Immortal Longings. I also have her, I think it's Foul Lady Fortune, and I haven't read that one either. So I really need to get going on Chloe Gong. And I think this is a retelling of Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra. So really interested about this one. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I kind of want to keep it that way. So yeah, then those are my little shelvers, my books that I've kind of had for a minute that I need to read. And I think that is all. Those are my 3 categories that I really want to prioritize for the rest of this year. I think it's doable. I think I can get to all of them. And like I said, it'll be really fun to see at the end of the year and rewatch and see how successful I was. So thank you so much for watching. My next video will be my mid-year wrap-up, which I'm really excited to do. I'm going to try to add a lot of stats and kind of go through all of the books that I got to this year. And I'm thinking I'll probably be close to 50, so it'll be a good wrap up. But until then, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. Bye!